level of
Oh,
work that he puts in.
yeah, you can't say enough about Fred. I mean, you could ask anybody. He is a true machine when it comes to preparation, both mentally and physically. He does everything right. He takes care of his body. He practices the same way that he plays every single day. I mean, probably since day one, since he's been here. I wasn't here when he first got here, but I know that's for him to be able to step right in and take over like he did, especially at the Mike linebacker position where he's making all the calls. He's such a great communicator, but it's just he doesn't change ever. I mean, it's just so consistent, and that's why he plays the way he does.
There is so much that you put on his plate because of his position, but how easy is it to I guess maybe not easy, but how difficult is it not to put too much on, like to kind of rein things in terms of, we could ask him to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the same system for so long that he's just gotten really good at it. So it does take time, but like I said, he puts so much preparation into it. It matters to him, and he's the best, So he's really smart. He's really physical. He plays fast, but when you can be smart like that, it allows you to play faster. But he also trains like that every day. So it's not something that he just turns on game day. It's just part of who he is because he does it all the time. And as far as, we definitely try and push to have more. I mean, I try and push to have more guys communicate around him because it is a lot to, make all the calls and everything. And our guys have done a really good job. That's why I always talk about when you guys ask about the safeties and young safeties, for me, it's the communication. And our guys have done a great job with that with Tig and Malik. So that's been really good.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's
Nick,
right.
Bosa and Floyd are playing a lot of snaps. 86% for Bosa. It's as far and away his career high. What's the plan to make sure those guys get to January? Is Matos coming back? Are you looking at free agents? How do you help those guys?
We try to, but we want to win the game, and I think it's something Bosa, he's willing to do. And obviously, you want to protect him, but there were a couple games early on we didn't have as many snaps either. So you can talk percentage, but it's also depending on the game. I think that happened early in the year at a high percentage, but some of those games we were in the 50s. So it really depends on the game situation.
Why have you guys had so much success against Geno Smith? A guy that's putting up big numbers, but you've had his number.
I wouldn't say we had his number. I respect the heck out of Geno. I was with him in Seattle. I mean, even when he was backing up Russ, and everyone in the building there respected him too. He's got such a great arm, a great attitude. He prepares, and he can still move, even though he is a little older, but not really quarterback-wise. He can still move. He's got great vision. He can make all the throws. And he's strong enough and fast enough to escape. But he's the type of guy that has the right mindset, and you see it on tape, and you see the way that he plays with, whoever it is out there. He gets the best out of them.
They struggle to run the ball consistently. Seattle has, and it seems like a few times you guys have games this year where you played a team that struggled against the run, but when you go against them, your preparation is always, well, they're going to try this week.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, the first time we played him, I think going into it, Kenneth Walker the previous week only had 5 carries, so it was you just feel like that's not what they want to do. Now, some of their games have been out of hand too, or like out of balance, and when they're in balance and the game's close, what was it, the Rams, I know it went to overtime, but they ran the ball 33 times, so I feel like they do want to be balanced. When you really look at the games and you watch how the games go, it just depends on the situation, and that can happen to anybody. I think they truly do want to be balanced. Yes, they do spread out and do a lot that way, but with the talent that they have, even Charbonnet's a good back too, but Kenneth Walker's extremely talented, so I think they do want to run it, and we want to take it away.
How much bigger is Deommodore Lenoir than his actual size, especially when you see him going up against a guy like DK Metcalf, who really outweighs him?
Yeah, I mean, DK probably outweighs almost every corner he goes. I can't imagine. Probably half the linebackers too, but Demo's he's tough, he's strong, he's stout, he plays that way, whether it's in coverage, which is tough because some guys at the top of the route can get pushed around, and he generally has the ability to stay sticky to a guy, which is another thing that, allows him to be able to play outside as well as inside because he still has the quickness inside to go with being able to trigger in the run game, fight off blockers and go make tackles on bigger running backs. So that's really the value, like I said, that Demo brings is being able to do both. Mm-hmm.
Why are the division games seemingly so difficult?
Well, you're familiar with people, so you're familiar with them, they're familiar with you, so sometimes they can get more difficult for everybody. You just you played against the same players, you've not just studied them on film, you've actually gone against them, you have your film against them. So there's just a lot more familiarity, and the more familiar you are with people, the more it can be more difficult for both sides. It can also be better, too, because you do know them so well, but then there's always that factor of, because you play them often, there's this back and forth of are they going to change, are they going to be a little different, you just don't know.
McCaffrey made some big catches in this game. He also averaged 3 yards a carry, which is very unchristian. How close is he to being Christian, the Christian we saw last year?
I think he's. I hate saying he's not there because he is always there. But everybody needs time. We've talked about during the training camp with Trent, training camp with BA. It's always guys need practice. He need practice time, and I thought he was on point last week. Very, very good. And I thought he was on point in the run game. The runs he had were. You have to ask him whether he felt he was off a little bit or not. There was probably one run that could have been a little better, but overall, I think we just didn't probably provide him enough space last week. And then some of it might have been him situations. I don't remember all of his carries, to be honest with you, but yeah, he looked great last week. I think there is that. I thought he did a great job of protecting the football last week. That's always my biggest concern was a guy gets out there the first live reps of the year. You don't have the preseason games. You have not that first. It's your first live reps, and everybody's in midseason form. I think he did a great job protecting the ball, and so I say, I think he's right there. It's hard for me to say he's not. I hate saying that about the guy because the guy's so darn good.
The Tampa Bay game was, I know you're not huge on stats, but I guess the first time in 20-some games you didn't get 100 yards rushing. Did you feel you struggled to rush the ball, or was that the flow of the game? Or
there was obviously we had some. I think we had some carries that we probably left some yards out there on, and whether it be a block that was just missed, a run that was just missed. There was just one of those things. It came out that way, and it wasn't. It was obviously not what we like to, not our normal production in the run game. But I don't think any of us walked away saying, "Oh my gosh." We saw the ops were there and we missed some ops, and that's what happened. And the way the game flowed, how well, what was going on with the passing game and everything else just kind of flowed to a point where we said we need to throw the ball to give some more chances for the guys to make some plays, and that's what we ended up doing. But really, I think it was a little bit like the combination of everything. Didn't get enough carries, and then when we did get the carries, somebody was off somewhere, and that's what happens.
Your guys' defensive line is not as deep as it's been in past years. Do you guys get together as a staff and say, hey, look, we need to start playing? You guys are dominating time of possession, but do that even more to try to protect that defensive line as the season progresses?
There might be some conversations. We don't do it as a staff. There might be some conversations, with Kyle and with Nick, and they might discuss some of those things. But for the most part, the game plays out as it does. Now, we obviously have a plan every week based on who we're going against as to how much, we do what we do, and that's what the time of possession is what it is. But some weeks you have to be careful. You have to be very careful. I know. Yeah, we went one time up to, I'm sorry with the story, but went to Buffalo to play with Jim Kelly was up there when they were really, really good back and going to Super Bowls and everything. And I was in Minnesota, and on the plane all of a sudden, Tony Dungy was sitting next to Brian Billick, and Brian said, hey, we're planning on going some no huddle and up tempo. And Tony was like, oh my gosh, we're going up tempo? The last thing I want is for Jim Kelly to have more time. We should be trying to milk the clock every second we get. And so that led to a discussion as to how we might approach that game a little differently based on the conditions that day and everything, where we needed to milk the ball a little bit more. Although there was still a time to do some change of pace stuff that would help our offense be more successful. But that always is part of the planning every single week.
Would it surprise you if I told you that on first down inside the 10-yard line you've run 19 times and passed 3 times?
I wouldn't. I think that would be probably accurate. I don't know.
Do you feel like you have an opportunity to be? Do you feel like you're getting a little bit too predictable on first down?
No, I never feel predictable because I think every single call has a reason. So that's why it's really hard for the struggle with analytics in that regard. I think everything's a statistic of one. That play, that situation, that time, what did we think we were getting and why did we call that play? It was, we're just going to prove that we can run or prove that we can throw it. It's that there was a reason for all those calls. And whether they're having success or not, now did we misjudge the reason? Did situation? So never predictability. It's always, because I don't think we, for 1 minute, we're doing it because we think it's the best play to call. That's what I think it is. And that doesn't mean that we're misjudging it. It sometimes means the defense does something different. Sometimes it means that we don't execute it properly. There's so many factors that go into it. That's why I go into, this is on a tangent a little bit, but I just think everything that when you say, well, teams that go for it on 4th and 1 here, well, there are so many variables that go into every one of those calls to say that it's a general statistic, but overall, all those things are just, man, it's a statistic of what was play 1 of the 19, and what was the situation in the game, and why did we call? What was play 2 of that, and then play 3, and so, as I say, if somebody said, hey, what's your run here, Chris? As I said, I'll take and say, well, I suggested this and it stunk, or it was, that's on me. But how and why, that's a hard one for me to say. It's predictability.
200 and something yards in the first matchup against these guys. Chris, talking to us about the front, because I know Draymond Jones is playing outside linebacker. He's 285 pounds. I mean, have you ever seen a 285-pound outside linebacker?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, they're big. They're a big physical group. They do a good job. And, we hit a few. We creased a couple early, and then we had the big run at the end. Obviously, he gets 70-something yards on the last run of the game almost, or one of the last runs of the game. It does help your statistics. But, they're a good front. They have a very good philosophy, a very sound defensive philosophy, and sound defensive they coach good techniques. They're an improved team over the last time we played them, and they'll be a huge challenge for us. Obviously, people that can try to set edges on our offense, that's always a big challenge for us. And then how the rest of the front plays according to the edges being set challenges us greatly as well. 99 did a great job against us last game. They all did. They had a heck of a game. We just, we had a chance. They get the kick return. They get back in the game. It's nip and tuck till the end, and we break the long run at the end, and then Juice sneaks one in there at the end, and we end up making it a little bit better, a wider margin of victory than maybe it had been most of the game. So, but they're a challenging defense. Thank you very much, guys.
Brock, you're 5-0 against the Seahawks, and I know it's obviously a team sport and stuff, but I mean, how much pride do you take in having beaten a division rival that well?
Yeah, I mean they're a great organization, great team. Got really good players, and so it's never easy. I'll tell you that. It's not. I think we've had some success going against them, but it's always been a dogfight, and it's never just been given to us or anything. So, and we know that. We feel like that's the case with our whole division, especially this year. So, great team, and there's never a moment where we walk into this game going, it's going to be given to us or anything. Like, we know the history of the 49ers and the Seahawks, and you have to have the right mindset going into this game, or else you can get exposed. So, yeah.
You're 4-0 this year when you don't fumble the ball or throw an interception. I think you're 16-0 since you've been here in those situations. When you hear those numbers, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I mean, it makes sense. If you win the turnover battle, I forgot what the stat is, but it's it's almost an automatic win. And so for me, that's my job, and I take pride in that. In those games where you don't turn the ball over or anything like that, and you're protecting the team, you're protecting the offense, and your defense can then go out and create turnovers, and you can feed off each other. So that's a huge part of the game, and so it makes sense. And that's probably the case with a lot of teams around the league. The quarterbacks that play smart and do their job and put up points without turning the ball over, you're gonna have a really, really high chance of winning. So that's the goal every week.
The new regime they brought in, you've played them one time, and then you played the other regime before. Was it like preparing for an entirely new defense, or was there some carryover?
I mean, the scheme was different for sure, but like going against the players and stuff, we sort of knew how some guys were. But in the NFL, man, the scheme is a really big deal with how they play certain coverages, leverages, how their run defense is and how they're filling in gaps. Like all that stuff is slightly different. So that was a new challenge for us in studying them and trying to scheme up them compared to the years past. But going back and watching some stuff in Baltimore and stuff, like sort of just trying to put it all together. And then obviously all the games that they've played this year so far, we have some good tape on them and everything. So, but it was a challenge, especially going on a Thursday night game. But, this time around, hopefully we can, just build off of the game plan from last time and have a feel for them. But, I mean, it's our second time going against them in this scheme. So, it's still a challenge for us as always.
The red zone production hasn't been where you wanted, but George has kind of been a constant for you this year, and even when you took over, he scored a lot more touchdowns than he did previously. How were you guys able to kind of develop that, connection that you have, and where is your trust level in terms of, George specifically down out?
Yeah, I think, when you go down there, man, just the tight end, his frame and everything, and how explosive he is, his hands, he's a really good matchup against guys down there, especially when it's, tighter and in the red zone. You don't have a lot of room for air or anything. And so when you have a guy that is a good mismatch as a quarterback, it makes you comfortable and like knowing that, all right, I have an outlet with, Kittle. And so it's been, really just going through my progressions and trusting in Kyle and trying to get George in the right matchups and getting him the ball and giving him an opportunity. He's come down with some crazy catches. And so for me, it's almost like, I have my tight end as my check down there, knowing that George is going to find a way and give me a chance. And so it's obviously really nice, and hopefully we can continue our connection and growth together.
You see toe taps, things like that, a lot of receivers. You don't necessarily see tight ends doing that. How unusual is it to have somebody who is making plays like that in those situations? I
mean, yeah, for a tight end, for how, big he is and the run blocking and all the stuff you have to do as a gritty tight end to then go and toe tap, on the sidelines and jump up and make acrobatic catches and stuff, like that's unheard of, dude. And he does that on a weekly basis, it seems like. And so George is a future Hall of Famer, man. So I'm very thankful to be playing with him, and like I said, I hope I can continue to feed him and continue to grow together.
George seems very well. I was going to say silly. Sometimes he is silly, right? But obviously there has to be a serious side. What have you learned from him, whether it's just the business of the NFL or, just the wisdom he's been able to impart to you?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot, sort of just taking me under his wing, be like a, older brother and just sort of give me the the layout of everything of what this business is and what it looks like, and obviously how to treat people, what to do, what not to do, off the field stuff, and how to handle just the spotlight and everything, and what he does that helps him, center back in to what matters most with his family, friends, and football. Like, he's given me some really good advice and continues to. It wasn't just a one-time thing when I was a rookie. Like, he continues to do that, and I'm very appreciative of that. And obviously he's got the fun, charismatic, personality, which we all love, but he also knows what it takes to be great at this level, and he does what's best for obviously the team and himself and his family, and so I respect, how he goes about what he does, obviously the treatment on his body, studying, performing, all of it, man, you see it. And so I'm extremely blessed to, be a teammate of his and for him to, teach me the ropes.
Having Christian back at practice now for a second week, do you see a difference in what it does for everybody else? Does it elevate everybody else? What does that bring just to every practice day?
Yeah, I mean, he goes hard, every rep. He does everything right. He doesn't mess up or anything. And so when we see, the standard that he's playing at, for all of us, we're like, all right, man, like, Christian's back, and we just got to do our job really well. And when we get him the ball, let's, make sure the blocking's right. For me, it's how can I give him a accurate ball in transition so that he can get the most yak as possible. So it's like all those little things that you sort of start to see everybody elevate their game with. And so it's crazy what, when a person comes back, like, of his caliber, what it does to our team, man, and everybody elevating their game. So obviously extremely happy to have him back for everything that he does for us, but more than anything, we just got so much respect for, how he goes about his business and being such a great teammate that he is.
When you and your wives and George went on a vacation during the bye week, was there any football? Did you guys throw patterns or talk ball, or did you kind of agree ahead of time we're not doing that?
We both brought a football, like, without telling each other. He was like, hey, I brought a football, and I was like, so did I. And so just in case, but we flew in together. We golfed together one day, but outside of that, we were, just away, just with our wives on our own, and just getting away from football. But we obviously just brought a football to hold and touch and not forget what it feels like. But that was about it. We didn't throw or anything, so we got away.
Going back to your chemistry with Christian McCaffrey, the throw to the right sideline that you kind of arced over, he said that it was, it was halfway there before when he looked back to catch it. Is it just your trust in him that you've already had built up from the past, that you knew he was going to be there? Is that part of what?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we've ran that route, so many times from camp to games in the past. And obviously, like, it just goes to, a testament to, his detail. Like, I know where he's going to be because every time he runs it at practice on air or against a defender, like, he gives me an indicator, or like there's like subtle movements because he does it constantly. And so for me in that moment, it was just all about trust because I knew where he was supposed to be and how he runs the route. And that's the kind of guy he is. So he has set those kinds of plays up for me. So that if it is off schedule or anything, I know where he's supposed to be. And so that's just the chemistry and trust that we've built, and hopefully we can continue to have that going forward.
Was that last week? Because he obviously hasn't practiced much in the last couple of months.
Yeah, we ran it last week at practice, but going back to watching last year and then the reps that he did have at camp early on, like those are all reps that we've gotten together. So once he came back, we're like, all right, this plays back up, and we're like, all right, sweet. So.
Pearson was talking a little bit about his faith and like how certain things have happened to him since the shooting or with the shooting that like he just doesn't think are coincidences. I don't know, has he talked to you about that at all, or if not, like, do you like kind of feel the same way when you look at his story?
Yeah, 100%. He's talked about it to me, and I totally agree with him, man. And obviously, I'm a believer in God, and to see him go through that and then to get back and just the story that he has, like, I'm not, like, there's no way that's just a coincidence. Like, that's just my firm belief, and I know he's told me that, and he's told all the guys that. And to see him back playing and his story, man, it's something bigger than football. It's bigger than, what we're doing here right now. It's way bigger than that. We're still sort of trying to figure it out, and we'll see what happens with it all. But, yeah, if you ask us, it was God. So, thanks, guys.